The Sacred Mass, chapter 16, 1-6, A Night to Remember. Eric took Julian home and then he proceeded to talk Hope into his bed, and Sunshine left with Lotte to the basement, and they needed to figure out Lotte's living arrangement, and she could not get sleep in a traditional lodging. And before heading back home, Greg and Caron played one last game of chess. And Caron asked Greg, "And what are we wagering this time?" "Let's keep it interesting. What should we wager?" I pondered, asked Greg. "Whoever loses has to take it where the light don't shine," suggested Allan, butting in. And Helmer moaned in his sleep, and so Allan kissed his father's forehead until the nightmare went away. And from up close, Allan could see many strands of white hair in his father's long black hair. "Fair enough," said Greg flatly, and he added, "The loser will be the lady tonight." Caron chose to play with the white pieces, and normally he would play with the black ones, responding to whatever Greg did. Allan used a short timer. The game would be over in 10 minutes, and the winner would be decided either by points or by checkmate. And Gregory made quick work of Allan's forces early on, and Caron pushed his two knights deeper and deeper into Greg's defenses. And eventually Caron tricked Greg into castling his king, and Caron placed a tower in front of the king, and Greg went to eat it, but the tower was being protected by a knight. And Caron had gotten a little too focused on winning the game that he had forgotten the nature of his prize. It was 1 a.m. when Caron and Greg made their way home, and Caron was still sporting the armor of Grimory. When the two met at home, Gregory asked, "And how are you doing lately, Caron?" "I'm doing fine. I got a final surprise for you, Mr. Needy," said Caron, smiling. Do you now?" asked Gregory. "I'm going to climb to my bedroom from the window, and you take the main entrance and don't enter inside my bedroom till I'm ready," said Caron. Gregory agreed to play along with the game, though truth be told, he was a bit nervous about the entire experience. And while he waited outside the bedroom, Greg decided to look to some other gift presents. And they had been left outside the door of the bedroom, and he opened the first gift from Allan, and he saw what he saw in the box made him frown. And the note said, "Just in case you need assistance." The second gift was from Caron, and inside there was a bag with strands of blonde hair. And Caron now regularly trimmed the split edges of his hair to keep it nice and silky. And Gregory and I would sometimes like to suckle the ends of Caron's blonde hair. And Gregory had recently finished his original batch of trimming. And Greg smelled the hair, and he took a few bites from it in order to nourish his spirit. And the third gift was from his dead mother's seed ring. And in case of her death, she made arrangements to send a present to her birthday presents to her son. And he looked at the title of the book, written in dragon runes, and the book was titled Your Body and You, and it started as thus: "My heart, you are now finally 20 and all grown up. And I hope you have grown as big as your mother, and if not, do not despair, my heart, and your mother is always with you. And there are trying days ahead of you, and for now that you reach adulthood, it is going to be common for you to feel ... Gregory turned the page. He wasn't in the mood to read. He fancied that he already knew the birds and the bees, and he didn't want to read a weird tutorial from his dead mother. When he turned the page, he saw a lithograph of Sunshine, and the page read, "This is Sunshine. She's your sister, the runt of the letter, and a great disappointment to your mother." Before he could continue reading, Caron said to Greg, "I am ready to see you now." Caron had delayed Greg's entrance in order to arm himself with valor. Though he fancied Greg, he sometimes worried about his motivation. What if he was just like Alisa? That he was with him out of pity. Gregory deserved to be someone who loved him and not pity him, and most of the feelings that Gregory inspired in Caron were those of concern, not affection. Do I really love Mr. Needy, or am I just lonely? Or do I pity him? Caron rolled these questions over and over in his head, and he could not find an accurate answer to it. Greg started to slowly turn the handle of the door to enter the room, and instead of calming Caron, this increased his anxiety. And Greg suddenly flung the door open, and he slammed it quickly after entering the room, and the sound of the door slamming made Caron turn as pale as a ghost. He said in a shaking voice, "That's enough, don't you think?" "Huh?" said Greg, confused. "We should stop before any feelings are hurt, and let's go back to just being friends, Mr. Needy? I still want to take care of you as a friend, but we will not be sleeping in the same bed anymore because friends don't do that sort of thing to each other," said Caron, ending his words with a nervous laugh. Caron had hoped that Greg would have reacted by crying, and Greg's tears was at least something he knew how to manage. And instead, Greg started hyperventilating. As he did, he got angrier and angrier. And Caron had only seen Gregory angry once, and it was when he had kissed him as Grimory. And Inannis had long left the room, so Caron was alone to deal with Gregory's fury. And Gregory pulling at his hair, started stomping on the floor and yelling. He said, "No, no, 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 I won't accept this. And do you take me for a child that you can toss away at your own convenience? I am not Mr. Needy. I am Gregory, fifth prince of the dragon-infested noble household, Citrin's last clutch, Citrin, the strongest dragon that has ever lived in the world, terror of the seven seas, Citrin, the brood mother who birthed 794 noble and handsome dragons. I am her last clutch, and I demand that you love me." Listening in the other room was Elisa, Brown, and Alec. And Alec needed a distraction after his beating at Sunshine's hand, and he had come to talk to Elisa and Brown about his brother. And while Elisa and Brown were distressed, Alec found the entire drama quite amusing, and his little brother was still acting like a child. And when Greg said that he demanded love, Alec started laughing, and he reassured that Elisa and Brown that everything was going to be fine. Gregory was furious, so much so that he had grown scales and the wings had been deployed, and his eyes were the color of crimson, and the horns he had grew had pierced his scalp, thus staining his brown hair red. Caron sat there trembling while he focused his eyes on the floor to avoid looking at Gregory's grief-stricken face. And Gregory, drawing nearer, saw his reflection in the mirror, and he grasped when he saw something that what he considered his own monstrous visage. And he ran to the bed, and he wrapped himself under the bedsheets to hide himself from Caron's eye. And Caron breathed a sigh of relief when he heard Gregory crying. Tears was something he knew how to respond. And he got up and he raised the potency of the gaslight in the bedroom. And then he went to the bathroom to get a clean towel, which he rinsed in water, and he sat near the bed and he removed the top of the bedsheets to reveal Gregory's bleeding head. And Gregory flinched away from Caron's touch, and Caron, smiling shyly, said, poor Mr. Needy, don't cry. You don't need to hide yourself from me. You're not ugly." Caron took Gregory by the hand to the bathroom to clean the head wound, and Gregory did not show any opposition to Caron. And Caron washed the blood off Gregory's face, and he also removed Gregory's torn shirt. And the winds had slowly retreated into Gregory's back, and Caron passed his hand over Gregory's back, and he also felt the two spots where the wings emerged. And he pressed one, and the sharp tip of one came out. "Are you thirsty, Mr. Needy?" asked Caron tenderly. "Here, have some water. Should I put some diamond dust in it, or maybe ruby powder would work better this time?" Caron prepared the large flask of water, and after pondering a little, he decided to add diamond dust. And Gregory then drank the water meekly, and the water helped cool him off, and he shed most of his scales and the small horns he had grown. He grows his horns, like deers that they grow it and then they fall off again. Caron took Gregory back to the bedroom, and then he sat down on the bed with him, and he kneeled down on the floor to be at eye level with Gregory. "Gregory, look at me," said Caron softly. Gregory made eye contact with Caron, and Caron was greeted by a blank, emotionless stare. He waited patiently till the pouty look in Gregory's face manifested, and he smiled and said, "Poor Mr. Needy, it doesn't take much to win you over, does it? You don't really love me, do you? You're just sad and lonely. My poor Gregory." "I know, because I am very sad and lonely too, and I have been very lonely for a very long time." And Caron stood up and he drew Gregory close to his heart, and Gregory closed his eyes to listen to the calm measured heartbeat. And Caron continued, "You see, Gregory, there is nothing there. I have no love to offer you, just emptiness." And Gregory smiled, and then he stood and kissed Caron, and Caron drew nearer to Gregory to be wrapped in his embrace, and Gregory smiled and said, "Caron, why are you so mean to me when all I want to do is love you and be loved in return? I'm not asking for the world, am I, sweet Caron? Or is the mighty Gregory not good enough for you?" "Greg, I can't love anything or anyone, not when I'm filled with this much anger. Greg, Caron clenched his fist in fury before proceeding. I hate him. I hate the memory of the old ogre. And I hate Lorica too. She says everyone, but she could do nothing for Charlie, who was accidentally smothered by his poor mother. And I couldn't even pretend to love you to make you happy, Greg. I can't do anything for anyone." Sweet Caron, said Greg, kissing him again. My dear sea slug, and you can sting me with your words and your actions as much as you desire, and you can even take out your fury on this unworthy flesh, and you cannot wound me even if you wanted to. The mighty Gregory is a masochist, or haven't you figured that out yet? That isn't right, Greg, and you deserve to be with someone who is incapable of hurting you, protested Caron. The someone you and Allan want for me doesn't exist. Being with others will always be painful, but it is at least preferable than being alone, don't you think? Insisted Gregory. Gregory started to look about the bedroom, and he saw the candles, the lily decorations, and the wine. And laughing, he said, you certainly put in a lot of effort to decorate our little love nest, and just to dump me. Let's try this again, and let's pretend we did not say these hurtful things to one another. Before Caron could protest, Gregory left the room, and this time when he entered, Gregory closed the door slowly and quietly. And in the other room, Alec, who had his face flat from eavesdropping, asked Alisa, what's this nonsense about a dead kid? That would be my fault, said Alisa bitterly. I fell asleep while breastfeeding the little critter, and when I awoke the next morning, he was dead. I should have listened to Lord Seafood and hired a wet nurse to help me. There was an awkward silence between Alisa, Bron, and Alec, and to break the silence, Alec said, I hear something. Ah, good, I hear kissing and moaning. I'm out. Why, the fun has just begun, asked Alisa. Unlike you, I don't get turned on from eavesdropping on my baby brother. It's weird. You guys are weird, commented Alec. And then he stopped and he asked, who's that old ogre? A real bird's father, said Bron flatly, and Caron was his favorite punching bag. And when Mother and I interfered, we got it much worse. And Mother tried many times to run away with us, but we were never able to escape. And when Caron was 5, Mother confessed to an infidelity, and the old ogre became blind with fury, and he killed her. And Caron burned the old ogre to death with his magic, and that was the first time Caron displayed any magical abilities. And we roamed the streets for half a year, and I had to do a lot of stuff that I'm not proud of to survive. And Eric and Sofina took us in, and Sofina placed us in this good home. That was a pretty comprehensive summary of your life story, commented Ale. Sofina says that it's healthy to vent, said Bron, shrugging his shoulder, and she calls it therapeutic, and every time I tell her story, I do not know why I feel a little better about it, and thank you for listening. Before departing, Alex said, take care of my little brother. Back in the other room, Caron and Gregory had started to earnestly be with one another, and both were in the bed tight in each other's embrace. Only this time they did not have garments to separate one another. And Caron eagerly yielded to Gregory's caresses, and Gregory started slowly kissing lower and lower, and moving down from the chin to the neck before lingering a bit on Caron's chest. And Caron tried to reciprocate by caressing Gregory's back and kissing his head. Gregory stopped a moment, and then he commented, I like your new haircut, and the layering gives it a bit of value. I'm glad you like it. I will give you more of my blonde hair for you to eat, but I do not want to look too masculine, I'm sorry, said Caron, chuckling. Had you turned any manlier, I would have dumped you immediately, said Gregory, raising his head to look at Caron, and he resumed his kisses, and by the time he got to the navel, he stopped and he said, I just remember, you won the chess game. And Gregory rolled in the bed with Caron to get him to change position, and Caron sat up on top of Gregory's navel, and he seemed a bit unsure as to how to proceed. And Greg rested his hand on Caron's knees, and he started tapping them to illustrate the passage of time. Tick, 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 tick. Caron drew closer, and he kissed Gregory, and then he started to imitate Gregory by kissing him lower and lower. And when Caron reached the last rib, instead of kissing it, he gave Greg a love bite. And Greg grasped with delight, and he drew Caron closer to kiss him again. And Greg smiled while Caron grinned shyly, and he drew near Greg's ear to whisper, Greg, I love you too, Caron, answered Greg, and what Caron really wanted to say was, I'm sorry. Caron continued with his slow momentum, and Greg took Caron's hand to encourage him to make use of them. And now, in addition to the kisses and small and love bites, Caron added the caresses and the slight crashes and teasing. And Caron heard under the bedsheet the sound of Gregory's tail flaying left and right. And Caron by now was just under the navel, and he was disappointed to know that Gregory did not seem remotely inspired. And Gregory, chuckling, said, the effort is appreciated, but you could afford not to hesitate between each motion. And Caron sat back on the tight wine, and he went to the beach with Allan, and the two took forever to light the fire. And Caron went to reach for the tail, but Greg took his hand and he kissed it. And Greg said, "That's the easy solution, and I do so enjoy your company, sweet Caron." And Caron resumed his effort, which is time with a faster rhythm, and from time to time he would pass one hand across Greg's torso, and each time he did, he added more pressure. And he inched ever closer to the main object of Gregory's passion. And then before Gregory realized it, Caron was focusing more and more on it till it acquired the firmness that Caron was seeking. And Caron smiled happily when he saw the success. And his first instinct was to kiss it as he had done before, and instead he propped himself while opening his leg as much as possible, and slowly it seeped deeper and deeper into his core. And unlike his first time with Allan, Caron completely relaxed. And without much effort, Gregory's full length entered within, and Caron leaned forward a bit, and he placed his hands on top of Gregory's chest to push himself up. And with some effort, Caron repeated the same motion again, and after several minutes of this repeated motion, Gregory held on to Caron, and he changed positions again, and he placed one of Caron's legs over his shoulder, and then he started to power through Caron's defenses. And an unfamiliar sensation started invading Caron's interior, and it soon turned into slight bursts of pleasure with incrementing intensity. And Caron started gasping and moaning with pleasure, and to amplify the sensation, Gregory started stimulating Caron's instrument, which was already quite rigid. And both combined sensation increased Caron's moaning, and in Caron concluded that first work on Gregory's hand, and Gregory licked from his hand the nectar he had extracted from his lover, and Gregory was far from done, and he started altering his pattern, making himself more erratic, and sometimes slowly, and then he added the motion with strong momentum. And Caron endured this walk on torture for 2 hours, and despite concluding Gregory was far from done, and he encouraged Caron to continue with the game by kissing him, only this time Gregory presented his back to Caron. And Caron slumbered forward against Gregory, and he was panting, and he said, "Just give me a second to recover." And Greg nimbly left the bed, and he brought Caron out some fresh water from the healing spring, and Caron drank it, and he splashed it on his face, and feeling refreshed, he said, "Turn around, I'm ready for you." Caron propped a few pillows under Greg to get him to be on a level that he felt more comfortable, and he smiled slightly, and he grabbed hold of the tail with his left hand, and with the right he held on to Gregory's shoulder. And during this engagement, Caron continued. Notice that if he caressed the tail, Gregory relaxed, and if he squeezed it, Gregory clenched. And Gregory's sighs became deeper and longer as his body throbbed, and he curled into himself to raise his nether regions. And in this position, the small spikes of both his wings became visible. And Caron gave a playful tug at one of them, which caused Greg to scream and bite down against the bedsheets. And Caron disliked the response he had caused, so he proceeded with a gentler approach. And he no longer pulled at Gregory's tail, nor did he try to tug at the spike of the wing that was still visible. And afterwards, Caron concluded with Gregory, and now it was Gregory's turn to punish Caron for pulling at his wing. And instead of kisses, he gave Caron love bites, and he teased him but did not grant him relief. "I am sorry about the wing," said Caron apologetically. "And when I was not expecting to be so sensitive." "Don't worry about it," said Gregory, kissing Caron. "I'm already used to your little abuses, and you make it sound as if I'm doing it on purpose," protested Caron. After this apology, Gregory granted Caron the sweet relief he so desired with a kiss. And the two continued in this matter till sunrise, and by then Caron was worn and too exhausted to move, and he felt like a ragdoll being tossed about in the ocean. And Gregory saw that Caron was far too exhausted to continue, and he changed the cover sheets for a fresh one, and he wrapped himself around Caron under the bed sheets, and both proceeded to sleep soundly. There was one thing that drew Caron's attention. In the middle of Gregory's chest there was a small red scale, and unlike the other scale, Greg had not shed this single piece, and it was a lovely ruby scale right on top of Gregory's heart. And Caron kissed the scale, and it seemed to glow an even deeper crimson. And now I want to question, since Caron rested his head against Gregory's chest, and he returned to sleep. That's the end of that chapter, but